the light is actually hitting the most. And the thing is actually, there are like different topics regarding light. Like there is like, okay, like certain areas of this model, they in light, but like you can actually see that there are like specific reflections that actually they move. It's like the light on the overall shape of the head that like doesn't move. Like for example, like okay, it's gonna be easier with actually one light. Okay, we have like this one light that's actually pink, and then the color of the actual surface, and then you can see how much light can affect the surface. Like the whole surface looks pinkish now because of the color of the light. So you, like for example, it actually helped me to understand how light affects the surface of the actual object. And also like you can see stuff like this, like the reflection. It's not, it's kind of like, if you don't understand what's happening, it looks kind of random. But the thing is like the reflection that you have, like you see here, like the at the
highlight?
top, yeah, the highlight. I was missing the word, sorry, I'm just like tired. The highlight is actually moving because like the highlight is showing in a spot where the light is hitting the object and like directly coming into the camera. That's why the highlight is moving, and then the actual light of the object is like it's not moving, right? Like when you move the object, it's actually, and you move it where it's like there is no light visible. It's, I don't know if it's like what I'm saying is like understandable and clear, but and then you can actually, for example, like change the like with 3D, you can actually look. Go to the actually specific settings of the material and see how it would look like if that would be like less reflective and more matte. And then also you can actually check how it would look like if that would actually have subsurface scattering, which is like the situation where the light is actually going into the object and actually going through the object. So it's like something that's like, here is like super exaggerated, but like that's like a situation where what's happening in a human body, for example, with the ears, where like the light is like behind the head, then actually the color of the ear is gonna like change because you're gonna see the light that's going through the actual ear. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was asking this question just because I feel that I waste my time rendering. I mean, I end up on one layer and I just basically paint, like doing brush work, and I don't know if it
so for me it's
well.
like I'm usually like right now I'm usually having I don't know, it's like my, okay, it's working. I usually like for example, like with in the situation like this with the character and then background, I would at least have like the character on separate layer and all of the effects on additional layer, because it would like if I would do like any commercial work and then there would be any changes, it's like just easier to actually fix this, and also like it's easier to paint certain stuff, because like then actually if I just want to add more light on the leg, for example, then I can just grab that layer and then just, you know, paint the light. And then if I want to make it softer, then I can just do something like this. It's just easier to like, and then if I want to blur the actual edge, then actually I can do it as well. So I'm actually usually using the layers, like painting like on one layer. It's actually it's kind of risky for me. Like if you want to change something, you need to like redo a lot of stuff. Like for example, like with this character, if I want to add something in the background, then I actually, you know, and I have like everything on one layer, then I need to paint it and I need to watch out on the character. If I have like the character on a separate layer, I can also move it to actually maybe, like change the composition a bit. If like, it's obviously.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. Usually I start like that and do it black and white when add color and have them separately using masks. But then at the end of the day, I will have one layer like over paint, and I can't reach this organic feeling, without it. Because you have very strict edges when you use mask, for example.
Yeah, so like I understand it, and actually I understand what you are saying, and then like with certain cases at the end of the work, I'm flattening the whole image as well. So like for certain stuff, if I want to like have like a nice edges that's like not super hard, then I would do it as well. Like if I want to like show movement, like I would probably even like blur even more like the leg at the back. And like one thing that like for example like that's also like something that's like 3D actually helped me to understand is that like okay, if you have like situation like this where you have like the fire, probably fire would actually give you this like bloom effect that would affect the area around you. So like so you would have like something that's like like that light is actually creating this like glowy effect, and then also like if I would have a situation like this, then probably all of those elements probably should get like more light from this actual light, because when I'm looking at this image, there are like certain things that actually works in this image, and there's certain things like that could be better. Like for example, like this whole arm, the colors of it, they look kind of dirty and then too dark comparing to the rest of the image. The same thing with like the shadows here. If in the situation like this, it's nice to remember. Like for example, like here you added like this pink light, which is like kind of like bounce light from the elements around the character, and then this character should get something like this as well. Like especially if you have like this strong light from the right side of the character, then probably this light at least would affect in certain way this side of the character as well. But like it's like for me, I don't always know the answer, like how the specific things would look like, and I already showed that my painting skills today they don't necessarily work the best. And I need to admit also, like when I actually look at your portfolio before the session, I actually also prepared more for the concept works, probably like those two, because like actually with this one, for example, like there is like a similar problem like with the previous ones with the posing of the character, and then like it's most of it is kind of okay, but then like for example like when you go to these like element like hand, it's even like putting the hand like this for you, like just try to move the hand like this, it's like not necessarily very natural. So like that's something that's like could be worked on. But in general, like one advice, for example, like for those concepts, like I could give you in terms of, for example, like story and the character, because for example, like one thing that's actually it's something that's like I see in the first place is that when you look at the character, like these elements that this character has, like the armor, it looks like you looked at the reference of the actual helmet, for example, but the damage that it has, like it's kind of, it doesn't feel very realistic for me, because if you would have like the helmet that actually has something like this, which is like broken metal, probably the whole it just got like so many hits that the whole shape of the helmet would be like super bumpy. Just gonna search for some reference for that. It's actually, if the helmet, like what I'm trying to say is that when you're trying to portray a character, and then it's nice in this character that's like it has those details of like worn stuff because it's actually showing the story of the character. I'm just seeing like, you know, probably like the guy was a regular knight, and then some demon or like some plant just possessed him, and then actually started to damage his armor or something. But the one thing is that like those holes in the armor, they don't believable. It's not even about the realistic or not. They don't necessarily look believable to me. Because just trying to search for some references. Like, so like if you would search for like worn off like helmet, like it would just look like that. Like, so it has like a lot of bumps like this. And then if it would have actually a hole, probably it would even be more destroyed like this, or like you could probably find like a example of armor that actually has like a bullet hole, but that would be from the later eras. So like when you look at like, for example, a character like this, it's nice that you actually adding those elements that like showing the story of the character, that like, okay, he was hit here and he was hit there, but like sometimes it's just it's good to actually spend a little bit more time like on searching of the references of like particular elements, and then just adding them properly, because then it's gonna make the overall image more believable. And then, for example, you have like this character, and then also like it has like a nice mood, and then the light is actually affecting the clothing of the character. But there are like certain things that actually could be also improved a bit. Like, for example, like belts on the actual shoes, they doesn't necessarily look like they actually keeping the shoe tight. And the same thing with the belts here. One thing is that, like, for example, like here, it's kind of hard to tell if this element, like this armor here, is metal or leather. You wanted to like.
It's supposed to be leather, but I see now that it looks like metal a little bit.
Yeah, like probably because of those like white highlights here. And then if it's actually leather, like then it will be probably in general, like when I was doing stuff for The Witcher, I actually learn like fast, and that actually trying to like use every opportunity to make the silhouette of the character more interesting is like good. So like if I would like do something like this, that would be probably more like this. So just to show that this belt here is actually making that material pushed, because like that belt probably would tied up the armor here, and the same thing goes for material here. Like even if it's leather, which is like kind of hard to tie up, like I would still show this like small change in the actual shoe to show that the belt is affecting the material, and that will also add more to the overall silhouette of the character. Obviously, in certain cases, like for like this kind of belt, those will like were usually for a specific reason, and they are not for keeping the armor together or like the clothes together, so it might be more loose and not affect the body that much. There are like certain things that like similar to the problems of the previous images, like the space, like the shape of the elements. Like for example, like this, the way this is painted doesn't look like the ellipse. It looks more like this. So it's probably should be more like. And then if that like for example is going in space this direction, probably that element should be actually more like this. It makes sense?
Yeah. So you would recommend to focus more on form and rendering rather than storytelling, right?
No, like that's the thing. Like the storytelling is also important, but like in general, like I don't think that like you have like much problem with the storytelling of a character that much, because like if I look at this character, like for a character that just like it doesn't have any elements except of this character, this character shows like a lot of story in it, because like it shows like some sort of idea that like just by the details of the character. But like the thing that like would improve your images the most at this point, in my opinion, is like just like doing those like forms a little bit better and maybe adding a little bit more interesting light. So for example, like in this particular situation, you could just maybe add stronger light from the left side of the character, and then you would get like some rim lights on the armor to actually show more that actually it's metal. And then it would also like create the elements here like look more three-dimensional and like show more form on the character in general. Because like it's easy, like there are certain setups of light that actually are easier to, in my opinion, easier to paint and show the three-dimensional form. So like this setup where you have the tube like this. I can try to do it fast. Like just with that kind of setup where you have like light from the back at hitting the object and like creating the rim light, probably wasn't necessarily the most accurate one, but it just like for showing what I'm. So like the setup where like you have like light on the left side from the background and then one from the front a bit higher. It's kind of like, for me, it was the one that actually I kind of learned as the first one, and it was like easier for me to draw like forms properly with it. Like that's the thing, is like if you want to like paint stuff and then be able to actually paint them without references, it's actually, you kind of need to memorize how like specific light actually works, and then be able to draw different elements with that particular light. And then like if the light is hitting like reflective form, you can also add like a bit of bloom to it, or so like something like this would work pretty nice with the helmet. Obviously, it would be always better to actually find nice reference, because like this element looks like it's more chrome, so it's actually reflecting the stuff around it. So it's a bit harder to draw out of like without any reference. Yeah, but in general, like it doesn't necessarily look like you have like problem with light, because like it's more, it's the light in this particular one is like pretty consistent. It just like you could just get like additional things, like you could improve, for example, like by adding like light that's actually from here, which kind of like certain elements shows that there is light that's going like from this direction, right? Like if I look at the weapon, I see a highlight here, so it just shows me that like there is light from this direction. And like when actually, if you have like the light from this direction, so like you're missing like, for example, shadow from weapon, that would actually fall on the character, which actually would be something that would add some depth to the character itself, right? And also like the shadow that's actually okay, like you show that like, there is light from the left on the certain elements, but then like here you have like the light from here. Like in general, like at first it looks like everything is fine with the light here, but then when I'm starting to analyze the light, you have highlights here on this particular element, so it actually follows this particular shadow that this character is like leaving. But if I'm looking at the weapon or like this elements where like they show that there is also light from here, then you should actually also have like some kind of shadow that's actually following that light as well. And like those are like elements that actually it was easier for me to, like as I mentioned before, to learn about them and understand them with 3D, because then I could just move the light with the object and just see how it would affect the shadow. And then like if I would paint a character like this, and I don't want to use directly 3D, I just want to use it as a reference, I don't even need to have like the character with this particular pose. I might just use a character with T-pose and then just put a light there and just see how it affects the overall body, and then try to apply it to the pose that I want to paint. Okay, I guess like we slowly need to finish.
One last question.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what I should add to my portfolio? Maybe you see that something is lacking.
It all depends on what you want to like focus on, because like the type of work that you have here, it looks more like illustration work for pen and paper games, board games, card games, and that kind of stuff. Like, for example, or like some like maybe also like mobile games, because like stuff like this I would see like also like in mobile games as well, and that works. So like if you want to like focus more, like it all depends like what kind of work you want to really do, because
I really enjoy doing illustration. I worked a little bit in the concept art for a small studio, and currently I work for a different client, and I do something like Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
Creatures and things like that, and I enjoy this more, like doing illustration.
So I guess like in that particular terms, like you're okay. Like one thing that's like I'm just seeing, like it's just like pretty simple ideas, like where it's character and then some element. This is probably one of the most complicated ones, where like you have like character and then some elements like birds. But then one thing that like probably you should try to do is like just show at least 2 or 3 characters in some more in-depth interaction. Okay, here you have like some attempt, but it's like fairly simple. But like try to maybe as a challenge to yourself, like just show like 2 characters that like fighting each other or something like that. It doesn't necessarily need to show both of them fully, but I think that's something that's like gonna be like a good challenge for you, and you're gonna learn a lot just by trying to approach that particular topic.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if you have any other like questions, just like send me a message and I will try to reply after IFCC.
Okay, thanks. It was really helpful, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity. Thank you.
So I'm looking forward to whenever you're gonna create in the future. Yeah. So,
Thank you.
okay, see ya. Bye.
See you. Bye.